Designing cards for MTG is very difficult, and so we can understand why Wizards of the Coast, Mark Rosewater specifically, called us and said, Jake and Joel, we need a little bit of help.
That's right. We've got some cards that we've designed today that are kind of like concept art for what could possibly be Universes Beyond for Harry Potter in Strixhaven, and the video starts right now.
Special thanks to our Patreon supporters who power our channel. Check out our Patreon for monthly giveaways, exclusive content, and even a starring role in our fan fight series. Link in the description below.
Hello and welcome to The Day.
Thank you for spending your time with us.
I'm Jake.
I'm Joel. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. We are going beyond Universes Beyond, and we are going to design Harry Potter's Strixhaven today. But before we do, if you would, go down there, hit that like button if you like the video by the end of it. Hit that dislike button if you don't. It really helps us out.
It's the best way to support the channel. If you are a fan, head on over to Patreon like you saw in the beginning of the video. Your name will be in all the vids. There's a giveaway coming up in just a few days, depending on when you're watching this. Let's get into the cards.
Wingardium Leviosa!
Oh, we should have dressed like wizards.
We should have dressed like wizards. First up, I figured, Jake, let's start with our main character, our titular character, if you will, Harry Potter, Boy Who Lived. I've designed this as an Azorius wizard, a blue, 1 white, 2 other, for a legendary creature wizard. 1 white, 1 blue, and tap. You can return target equipment to its owner's hand. One of Harry Potter's signature spells is Expelliarmus, and I figured bumping equipment back into its owner's hand would be a very on-theme ability for this creature. You can sacrifice Harry Potter because that's what he does, and have creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Plus, whenever you gain life, if Harry Potter's in your graveyard and it's your turn, you may cast it from your graveyard this turn. So you've got this recurable for 4 mana indestructible effect on your creatures just by sacrificing Harry Potter Boy Who Lived.
I think he's a pretty strong card. I do like the return target equipment to its owner's hand, very flavorful. I think the casting cost is pretty fair for the effect. You know, sacrifice a creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Keep in mind again that all of these cards are just something that we could see Wizards of the Coast do. We know that there's going to be a big mashup with Lord of the Rings. This is where they could go with Harry Potter and all of those characters in that IP.
Yeah, absolutely. We really did try to design these as though they could be real cards and not go overpowered in one way or the other, or deliver good drawbacks if we did have a really overpowered effect. And Jake, I think Hogwarts Castle represents another way of thinking that these could be designed.
Yeah, so this is going to remind you a lot of Tolarian Academy, old Urza's card, and you know, Tolarian Academy, you add blue for each artifact you control. This is a little bit different, but pretty much the same kind of thing. A legendary land that you add blue for each wizard you control. So, you know, you play this alongside Snapcaster Mage and all the other wizards that, from the history of MTG, there are a lot of them.
Right.
And this is some sort of way that Wizards of the Coast could, in theory, print a card that's kind of like the reserve list that isn't.
Yeah, it's really strong still. We're adding a blue for each wizard. It's still got that Tolarian feel to it, but I do think that it's a fair card that could be designed in a set like this. So for this next one, we've got something very interesting, and that is a creature that flips into a walker. The creature side of it is He Who Must Not Be Named. A black, a blue, and 2 other for a legendary creature, you know who. He's got indestructible because it really takes a lot to kill this creature, and pacified, which is a key term that I made up to essentially save some space on the card. I'm just going to be real. This creature can't attack or block is what that keyword means. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you may sacrifice another creature and pay half your life rounded up. So in the books, Voldemort was brought back, He Who Must Not Be Named, was brought back with a spell that required Bone of the Father, Blood of the Foe, and Hand of the Servant. So what we've tried to do here with this design is represent that spell on a card. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, so Blood of the Foe, you may sacrifice another creature, that's the Hand of the Servant, and pay half your life rounded up, that's Bone of the Father. If you do, exile He Who Must Not Be Named and return it to the battlefield transformed under your control, and of course it is Voldemort returned on the other side. Passively, creatures your opponents control lose all abilities, but they will retain their power and toughness. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a loyalty counter on Voldemort return. So you get loyalty counters on this walker through death of our opponent's creatures and not any of the abilities. Voldemort can -3 to gain control of a permanent, any permanent, and Voldemort can -10 to destroy all creatures your opponents control and create Death Eaters, 10 2/2 black wizard creature tokens with flying. So very powerful creature, very powerful walker. But Jake, do you think the drawback is solid enough to merit the strength of the walker on the other side?
I'm on the fence because the drawback is huge, but then the power level of the planeswalker is huge. Yeah, I think it's a fair card. I really do.
Doing these top-down designs is difficult but very fun because you do get to really lean into the lore and try and figure out how to represent a story through a single card, even if it's two-faced. And so I had a lot of fun with that one. Jake, the Harry Potter world is not just characters. We've also got some of the coolest artifacts that can be represented in MTG in this story.
Yeah, that's this is the Elder Wand. I put a lot of time into this one, and it's 1 black, 1 other for legendary artifact equipment. If you would choose any number of modes, you may choose an additional mode. So think of any kind of modular cards like Kolaghan's Command or any of the commands that we're about to get in Strixhaven. If you have the Elder Wand, it's known for being one of the most powerful wands in history. It is the most powerful wand. It comes from a long lineage of wizards that have killed other wizards and then taken it. You have to only take it by force. You can't, you have to like earn this wand. And normally it ends in death. It actually is known as the Death Stick. So that's kind of like a nickname for the Elder Wand. But equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has, when equipped creature dies, if it was a wizard, you may exile it. If you do, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls. Shuffle the Elder Wand into its owner's library. You lose 3 life. It gets most of its synergy from wizards, but also I think it's a good card if you're just trying to get the most out of modes. But yeah, what do you think of this one, Joel?
From the lore side, from the top-down design side, the exile target non-land permanent and then shuffle it into its owner's library is very thematic because the Elder Wand seems to pop up at these points in history, right, throughout the lore. And so the fact that it does its thing, it's very strong, it goes away, and then comes back, that's very thematic, especially when you could just use it to your power and have it passively on the battlefield, providing that ability to choose additional modes. It brings up an interesting question for me that I ran into when I was designing as well, which is, can an equipment have a passive effect on the battlefield even if it's not equipped to a creature? Like the Marauders map, legendary artifact for 5, creatures opponents control lose hexproof, can't have or gain hexproof because we can see where everybody is. You can't hide from us. You prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to creatures you control because we know where everyone is and we can attack accordingly. Equipped creature, if we equip it for 3, gains hexproof and can't be blocked because they know where to hide and they know which hallways to take to avoid danger. And so, Jake, the question becomes, can we have artifacts that provide passive abilities but also are equipment that provide more abilities to whatever creature they equip?
It does kind of come into this like weird space that is, okay, so if you equip it, yeah, you're getting extra value, but it just sits there like an artifact. Now you're going to have people that are like, well, that's really difficult to deal with. You know, it's going to be sideboard hate kind of target and that kind of thing. I don't know. I think it's the kind of thing, if there's a card like this that exists, please leave it down in the comments if they've already done this. I don't think that they have.
No, I'm not sure that they have either, but possible. We did want to design an artifact that was not an equipment, and so we went ahead and designed a place instead of as a land, as a legendary artifact. Gringotts Wizarding Bank for 4. You pay 2, tap, create a treasure token, sacrifice 20 treasure tokens, you win the game, and at the end of your turn, you got to spread the wealth. If you control a treasure token, target opponent creates a treasure token. So, Jake, Revel in Riches triggers at 15 treasure tokens. Do you think this one is balanced, sacrificing 20 to win the game?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So we've only covered legendary stuff so far. Let's talk about a regular creature that is also very strong. Dementor Convergence. 2 black, 1 blue, and 1 other for a creature spirit. Flying Phantasmal, which means whenever this creature becomes a target of a spell or ability, sacrifice it, which means what we're about to read is probably very strong. Whenever Dementor Convergence enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls. That creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. At the end of your turn, create a token that's a copy of Dementor Convergence. So if you have ever seen a flying lightning rod, it is this. This is absolutely remove it, kill on sight. Very strong card, replicates itself, and very quickly gets out of hand, which I think is very fair in the Harry Potter world. The Dementors are very oppressive, very frightening.
I like the fact here that they grow exponentially. So the first time at the end of your turn, you've got 2. And then at the end of your next turn, if those 2 still remain, you'll have 4, and then 8, and then so on and so on. I really think that thematically this one fits where a, you know, Dementor would fit inside the lore of this MTG Harry Potter world. Wanted to look at the Forbidden Curses as well, so we made 2 of those into 2 spells. One of those is the Imperious Curse, and you're going to recognize this card. This is Treachery. We wanted to, like with Hogwarts Castle being an allegory for Tolarian Academy, create these reserved list reprints like we've talked about before in our previous Universes Beyond videos, as reprints that fit either a commander mold or a individual IP mode. This one does a little bit of both. We've got the Imperious Curse as basically a copy of Treachery. 2 blue, 3 other. When it comes into play, untap up to 5 lands, sacrifice the Imperious Curse unless a commander started the game in your command zone. You control enchanted creature. So the Imperious Curse in Harry Potter lore was literally that. You control enchanted creature. So it fit really well to be able to reprint a reserve list card in a way that doesn't reprint a reserve list card.
Right, and anybody in Commander that's playing any kind of CEDH that values Yoink is clearly going to run both. But when Wizards of the Coast is pretty adamant, and it appears that they are not going to reprint the reserve list, a lot of people, you know, we hear this conversation all the time in this argument, why they should, why they shouldn't. This is the alternative to that.
Yeah, let us know in the comments if you would support or not support a decision like this from Wizards. I personally would be in favor of it, but I'd love to hear if other people don't agree with me on that. The other major Forbidden Curse that I wanted to cover was the Killing Curse, and this is very simple, very clean design that I'm very proud of what we came up with here. 1 black sorcery, destroy target creature unless its controller sacrifices a creature. And so if they have a creature that wants to jump in front of the other creature, fine, but for just 1 black at sorcery speed, you can destroy a creature, Jake. This card is like maybe legacy playable.
Whenever you give your opponent a choice, you know, that's the drawback on this card, right? Because you do have a card like Fatal Push, which is destroy target creature 2 or less, but with Revolt you're going to do 4 converted 4 or less, right?
Right.
So, I mean, Fatal Push, because Legacy and Modern are so low to the ground, maybe this card actually does need instant speed to be Legacy playable, but very strong card nonetheless, and a really great card for a limited aspect. And then also a really fun, flavorful card. The Patronus Charm, 1 blue, 1 white, and X instant speed. Choose a creature type, create a blue and white XX creature token with Defender of the chosen type named Patronus, which is really fun. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step.
Like most of them in this set, except for the reserve list allegories that we wanted to put in here, this is a super top-down design. It's meant to be a defensive spell, the Patronus Charm. Everyone's Patronus looks different, so you can choose a creature type with this one, and maybe that fits with some synergies in your deck. The creature token does get Defender. It can be a big blocker. You can make an 8/8 if you've got 10 mana here, but it's going to get Defender, and it's going to be Patronus. I do think that maybe the creature token here gets flying to completely sort of lean into the lore aspect of this, because Harry Potter did famously use the Patronus Charm to fight off a bunch of Dementors. And so maybe flying, maybe reach, I think would be good too.
I think that that's a fair direction. And after reading it again myself, I do think that where we could go with this card is actually, if you would sacrifice that token, you would gain life equal to that token's toughness. Maybe since the token is being sacrificed, you may be reading this and you may be going, well, you know, that's really good. It comes in as a big blocker, but it does get sacrificed. So where's the upside after that? I think maybe, you know, this is kind of like a new breath of life, right? You know, you're expelling something, you're also gaining some life, you're back in the game kind of thing. Give it a little bit more balance, but again, a fun, flavorful card. And you know, we are not card designers, but you know, we love that we got commissioned to do these, though. You know, this was nice.
Thank you to Mark Rosewater and everyone at Wizards of the Coast.
That's really out of left field, you know.
Those are our designs for Harry Potter Beyond, Universes Beyond. Big thanks to Wizards for definitely calling us and absolutely hiring us to design the next pack. We're very excited to have created this for y'all.
Yeah, there's going to be more Universes Beyond in the future. Of course, look up Lord of the Rings and the Magic the Gathering crossover that's coming up, and then if that interests you, make sure you look up the 40K crossover. These are actually in the canon. Do you think any of these cards are good? Do you think they're all overpowered? Let us know in the comments.
Hit that like button if you like the video. Hit that dislike button if you don't. We'll catch you next time. Later.